If it's not broke, don't fix it. I want to say a big thank you to Disparu for joining me today. It's great to see you. Purple Valkyrie is pretending to be me. That's her right there. She's going to be producing the show. She'll be the one throwing your chat comments up there. Just want to acknowledge her. Cheers to you, Purple. And
You're welcome.
yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you.
It was very confusing for me when I joined. I saw like two of you, and I thought, oh, something's gone wrong. You had to get like an extra monitor or something up on the side, and then a different voice came out of it. I was like,
no,
not what I was expecting.
If you both would have been wearing red coats, though, there would have been, I don't know, this would be a very different conversation.
Yeah, we would have won.
Oh,
Hey.
listen to this. Yeah, well, the BBC would have reported it that way. We know that. All right, I'm going to let you drop Purple Valkyrie.
All right. And see you later.
All right, we are here. Hey, everybody, what's going on? Yeah, thanks again for reaching out. We were having a really interesting conversation about your last Barbie video, among other things, but let's go ahead and bring chat in real quick because they always have something to say. Thank you very much, Purple, for bringing it in. And it takes a little while to catch up, but we've got Eldan. This is another big supporter and defender of Robert Jordan's work. It's fantastic to see you. Zax is here calling out Kayla Dare. It's awesome to see you. We've also got Evil Horned Rat God. See, Disparu, I have like all the cool people are here. I mean, like, come on. Ms. Martin Muses is here as well. And yeah, Kaylee is here. I am Vendel. So yeah, there is a poll that I have up in the video right now as to what is the worst adaptation to date. Now, I'm going to just do this a flash comment to Disparu. You have watched a lot of terrible television.
Yes.
Which is not a reflection of you. It's more of like of your intestinal fortitude. And I've been following along. Go ahead.
Before I was making videos, I was watching terrible television. I've seen the entire Arrowverse. Although, I don't think I finished The Flash, but I've watched nearly all of the final season. And I never made a video on them. It was just, I don't know. When I'm gaming, I have something up on the side, and you just end up consuming a lot of awful trash. But it gives you a good bar. As long as you consume it with quality and don't end up lowering yours overall, I think it works.
Yeah, it is true. And Disparu, our TRW 1974 says Disparu and Salty were the only two YouTubers to call out Wheel of Time. For a while there, that was true. You and I were... I didn't know you. You didn't know me, and then there were a couple other people. But go ahead, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, there was Night's Watch as well. Which
yeah,
but you are absolutely right. Because when I was making my videos, it was only episode 5. I still remember it. I only knew I wasn't insane because of the comments on my videos going, I thought I was insane because I couldn't find anyone else that didn't like it. So it was like an own little therapy session. And
then, you and I found each other. I knew that I was onto something when I got called incel for the first time. I was like, no one's ever called me an incel before. This is awesome. You know, I mean, but did this happen for you too, Disparu? Was it's like after about episode 3, 4, or 5 that wave of pro show commenters just disappeared like locusts. They went on to something else and they didn't even bother to leave nasty comments again.
I've seen the people that liked it all tended to be reaction channels where they just watched it, made faces, and then said they'd never read the books. That tended to be like nearly all of the channels, but they were everywhere. But that was all I was getting showed. And then I did find once I found like one channel that didn't like it, which was episode 5.
Yeah,
I suddenly started to get recommended others, and then there was more and more.
Exactly.
So it was almost like the recommendation engine just didn't know, and so you had to find other channels. Because obviously the way it works is it takes what you watch, compares it to someone like you, and then shows you channels they've seen. And so over time, as people found these other channels, because they're all like really small channels, except for a few, but it was like a network effect. Everyone found each other, which then started recommending them out to more people. So it was quite a cool little thing to have. And especially as Wheel of Time, it wasn't like Lord of the Rings where so many people were into it. So there was a whole plethora of channels right from the start. Yeah. It did need that sort of homegrown base to it.
Yeah, and there were a lot of channels that weren't monetized. I wasn't at that point. You know, it was really covering Wheel of Time. And again, not to make rage videos, it was inconceivable to me that people were saying this was, first of all, a good show. Okay. Second of all, this was anyway an adaptation, and I found a ton of people. I found a ton of people like you,
They
like
still do.
Dragon. I mean, well, the articles are like like season 1 was the most faithful adaptation with only minor changes, but season 2 you're really going to have to hold on because they're making 5 big changes, but it's still a faithful adaptation. And again, it's that how can you hold 2 untruths in your mind at once? You
Razor's
talked
already
about
said
that
though
in
that it's not adapting it basically because he
no.
said because like the story changes over time. But in this, he's
Yeah.
basically said because this one was going to be the one that was really close to the books, and now it's going to be season 3. But there was he's now saying, well, you know, because we've got to squash 2 books together, we can't really follow them, and everyone's really there, and it doesn't translate well. So, you know,
In
we're just
book
going to hit the
2,
same beats, but next time.
yeah, next time. Yeah, I mean, that's literally like the check is in the mail, I won't come in your mouth again. Like, if you fall for that more than once, all right? I mean, let's be, the other thing is this is a guy who said The Great Hunt, book 2, The Great Hunt, book 2, and The Dragon Reborn have pretty much the same plot story. So we can just mush them together, which is entirely untrue. But it doesn't really surprise, I guess, anybody who's followed what this guy's been saying. Now, I was talking about this with Purple Valkyrie earlier. Let me just do this. I've had somebody just join the channel. Al Dan has rejoined as a channel member. You've been a channel member for a year. That's amazing. Thank you for being here, dude. And thank you for coming on my show and talking about this. But do you think, Disparu, that it helps or hurts a show like Wheel of Time where the actors and the writers can't get on social media and talk about the show? Do you think it helps that no one is out there promoting it at Comic-Con saying it's about female empowerment and diversity and representation, and therefore they just have to make this snazzy trailer with a completely inappropriate soundtrack to get 14-year-old girls who don't like fantasy excited? I mean,
In every interview, it's always been the same. I remember, I think it might have been the last video I made, which was a while ago. But that was at one of the cons, and they put together all the actors talking about it, and it was the Leandrin actress, and he was talking about how important it was, that she was just all these strong women in the tower, and I'm like, you're not even supposed to be in the series yet. It's like, what are you doing?
I know. No, I mean, they don't know that. I mean, and then again, we also got the announcement from the people who are producers on Amazon that they're going to be doing a movie, an animated movie about another entirely made up character because they need another female empowerment story.
Why do they need a made up character? In the Wheel of Time has so many characters as it is. Just pick one. And then, like, there's hundreds.
Dude, and here's the thing. Check this out. They want to create a Wheel of Time multiverse. That's what they said. They want to create this cinematic world of the Wheel of Time because that's worked out so well for Disney. What else do we got here? And we got Gray from Wakazashi's Tea House just became a member of the World Brothers again. You've been a previous channel member for 1 year. Hail to you. It's fantastic to see you, Gray. I appreciate that. So
the thing is, they're so bad at what they do. You have to have a good core. And if you did a good core that stuck to the books and had people like it, that's when you spin off your other stuff and be like, okay, we'll take this character and we'll just make up something because it doesn't exist. There's no books about it. And you're like, well, at least you don't have that complaint. But when you change it from the start and you already scare everyone off and then go, now we're going to build off our own trash pile, it doesn't work.
Well, the other thing too is when people were providing feedback, and I would say that it was mixed. Some people were being inappropriate but correct, and some people were being nice and correct, which is that this is not an adaptation. Rafe Judkin's reaction to that was, if you don't like what I've done with these characters, I'm going to turn even more of them gay. I mean, again, this is the showrunner. Now, if you are sitting there saying this is a faithful adaptation and your reaction to criticism is saying, well, if you didn't like how I didn't make it like the books, I'm going to make it even less like the books to punish you. Like, what the hell kind of a dynamic is that between a movie studio, a streaming service, a creative, and the people that they attract to watch this show? You know, we still haven't gotten good figures. And I know you look at things like Parrot Analytics and the other stuff out there. All we have is from the first week where Amazon was saying it had the big, what?
The biggest thing about Parrot, during the writer's strike, they want to get more like a cut of the revenue, the overall revenue. And because it's going to be revenue and nobody gets told the revenue, they've said they want Parrot Analytics to work out the value of a show, and they're going to take a cut of that. The thing is, Parrot Analytics goes off social media mentions. So it means if they make a bad show and piss off the audience, which then makes them make tweets about it, they're increasing their revenue with every complaint. Talk about monetize your haters.
Bingo. And we saw that with Wheel of Time, with Rings of Power, with all of these shows where people were calling things out because their logic, the AI that's going to take over the world, could not distinguish positive from negative comments. All it saw was something that had a keyword from a search that was done. And that's why a lot of these studios were up their own ass, in my opinion, believing they had hits when really they had huge bombs, which were allowed YouTubers to get a lot of views and to confirm for people a lot of what they suspected about these shows. Oh, Snowdub is here. This is from our man from the Cotton Connection, does the R-rated puppet shows all the time. Great show last night. He says, hey, Disparu, yo, same name. Hey, Corey, $2 for therapy. Cheers to you, Snowdub. Thanks so much for that. But you had mentioned that the idea of taking a cinematic universe, which is 2% of one book, which I think you'd have to struggle to come up with for the Eye of the World. They actually included 2% of it in season 1. And then to sit there in season 2 and to take 1,400 pages. And even if you were competent to compress 1,400 pages with 2 very different plot lines into 8 episodes of television, which I think are 45 minutes. We're not talking about like Stranger Things did with these monolithic, huge blocks of screen time to tell things. It would be a hell of a thing. But now we see Moiraine, because this is the Rosamund Pike show, they've created a whole other storyline to occupy all of the screen, because Rosamund Pike is the star of the show, and therefore has the star of the show. They're going to put her on screen, I would say, at least 50% an episode. Like, what do you think about that? I mean, just, I haven't heard your opinion on this, and we have not coached each other, but what do you think about that? Is it that obvious, or am I just being a dick?
I think you always have to make allowances for the stuff. And if you're like, okay, we just don't have time, right? There's a ton of books. Let's say Amazon told them, you've only got 5 seasons. Like, we're just going to have to compress it. It's like, okay, you start cutting things. And you take what it is, you cut out the scenes which you think aren't important, and then you're left with less. You're like, well, okay, we still got to cut more stuff. So we'll try and merge some of these scenes together so the same story happens in a different place, but it's a place they're already going to and you get the same story. That's how you would condense something. You don't add in new stuff. The moment you do that, you've lost the argument. Because it's like, well, we don't have time. Well, you had time for all that over there. So why did this go? Because that could have been that. So
I know. It would be different if you
basic.
actually... I mean, if you're missing the whole point of the story, which is about, there's not Mystery Box, J.J. Abrams, discount store version of Mystery Box, where you have 3 male characters. I understand that's problematic when you're a male feminist, okay? But that's the story. You don't have 5 Taverin, and now Disparu, they're making up another Taverin. Okay, which was an entirely made up character in a Brandon Sanderson book, which was an homage to a huge fan of Brandon Sanderson. Well, Rafe Judkins has said, now we'll see if it's in the show, that he's going to run with that and then make up an entirely new character. Because again, as you said, you have absolutely all the time in the world to adapt 1,400 pages. So why not just make more shit up and completely miss all of the story from 2 books, which is, I think, was going to happen.
I think, because you were on about mystery boxes, I was thinking about season 1, and because you was like, oh wow, you can't do it. Now the first book is the most easily adaptable as it is, because every chapter ends on a cliffhanger, so it's like the end of an episode. But even if you weren't going to do that, they could have mystery boxed everything, because you've got Moiraine, she can do all this magic, but there's no explanation. Then you've got his magic, where's that coming from? Then you've got a guy across the other side of the world who wants to take it over. You don't know anything about him. And so all of these things are natural mystery boxes. And then you get to season 2. It's like, well, now we can show you the White Tower. So we show you how it all works. And we explain the magic system.
Bingo.
And we get, as they're being taught, it's now explained. So there is mystery boxes set up, but it's not like Lost, where they just made it up as they went along. So it actually pays off later down the line. And he was like, no, we've got to get the Aes Sedai in the tower in straight away. And then just make up something. Like, there's entire episodes about a warder dying, and you're like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares about that guy. I don't believe that anybody liked that episode. I don't believe it's physically possible, because nobody cared about the guy.
They burned 1/8 of all screen time in adapting the Eye of the World, and left out, I wouldn't say like debatably important scenes. They left out 98% of the scenes that should have been in any adaptation to
But
then
they changed
focus
the
on
ending.
this warder. Well, they changed the ending. They also changed the story that the Dragon Reborn could be a boy or a girl, which it could never be. They were always looking for a boy. And that is why the three boys, Rand, Matt,
I still
and
think they might do
Parrot.
that, by the way. They
Yeah,
spoke
well,
about the splitting of the soul. I would not be surprised if that happened.
Well, yeah, some people, and I think Prophet of the Dragon has talked about like there's many heads to the dragon, and so I'm waiting for the trans insert. I'm also waiting for climate change in season 2 because that's hot right now too. And yeah, I mean it's kind of nuts. And this was from William Jones. Says I personally think they could have done a lot with 8 episodes. Each episode could have been a mini movie, 60 to 90 minutes long. They did that with Sherlock Holmes. It's true. It's also, I mean, George Lucas famously said that the way that he wrote Star Wars, A New Hope, was that every scene he tried to make it into a 2-minute movie. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And therefore, you had a series of moments that were meaningful that had a through line for a story. And this is something that I've heard from Daniel, who I did a video with, who said the problem with season 1 is there is no through line. Like there's actually no character development, there's no arc, there's no standard story adaptation. It's just kind of a bunch of Jenga pieces stuck arbitrarily onto the screen with female empowerment scenes. I mean, how did you see that for season 1? What do you think was the most egregious thing? Was it the lack of faithfulness? Was it the terrible acting? Was it forcing agenda? Like after all this time, what is the one thing that left the worst taste in your mouth about season 1?
Episode 7 in the inn. All the other episodes, because this was when I was first doing reviews, they took me days. I was recording for far too long. I'd lose my voice at stuff. But I went through, then I'd go through again and edit it down, and then I'd make sure everything was fine. I went through episode 7. I edited it once. I never watched it again. I don't know if there's mistakes in that, and I'm never going to watch that review again.
That's how I felt too.
I hated everything about that episode. The thing was, I was out. I didn't care about it. Episode 4. I was so bored. I'm like, this isn't Wheel of Time. I don't care. I was at episode 5. I broke me, and I just found it funny. And I found episode 6 funny, and then episode 7, they brought the characters back in, and that's what got me. And that episode and I didn't understand it. That's what annoyed me even more. It didn't even make sense. And then I went and watched the Night's Watch review of it, and they were like, "Well, it's because parents doesn't have to see." Again, I know I'm going to annoy you all with pronunciations. I'm going to
Dude, I get yelled at all the time.
Reviews, so we just got to get used to it.
I know.
But Egwene is how I've said it. I don't even know. I don't actually know how these are meant to be said. So that's my fault.
Dude, they bust on me too. I say things wrong like Carhian, and it's supposed to be Carrion, and like I said it was Nineveh because I read these goddamn books before the internet came out. And
I've
then
read them for like 30 years and never heard them pronounced. So it's all like British pronunciation. Like I still think Sianchan is a far better name than Sean Chan. So I think some of my pronunciations are better. But yeah, it's like he's not after Egwene, he's actually after Rand. And the moment you realize that, you're like, oh, everything makes sense, everything clicks. It's there is no other explanation for it. And then you're just like, that's what it's gonna be. And I'm not sure whether he has the balls to actually go through with it or not. But that's definitely how that was all written. And I care less about it now because I've gotten the explanation, but I was annoyed because it didn't make any sense and you were ruining the characters. And now I've got the explanation. I'm just like, oh, okay. I'm back to episode 4. I don't care anymore.
Let me get to this super chat from the one and only Brian Nerdporial Lifeform. Great content creator. Give him a sub, please, for $5. It says, if only they put in the important stuff. Imagine if if Peter Jackson did that with Lord of the Rings, adding new stuff instead of Weathertop, Bree, Helm's Deep, Mount Doom, etc. Well, that's kind of the problem with The Hobbit in a lot of ways, where I still want to take all the Hobbit movies and compress them down to 2 movies, because I think you could do that really easily and get rid of a lot of fluff. But it's true. I mean, Peter Jackson, was it a perfect 1-to-1 adaptation? No. I'm rereading The Hobbit now, and there's a lot of scenes where if he would have done that, I don't know, it wouldn't have made the studio happy. But as far as Lord of the Rings go, I think it is one of the best adaptations. Is it the most accurate? No. We all know Tom Bombadil isn't there. We know Arwen is not who she should be.
I think
And
his
yet,
changes make sense, though. Like, I
that's
know a
it.
lot of people are annoyed about the raising of the Shire, but his reason for it was the movie's already ended. You've killed the big bad, and now you're what, going to go home and fight someone lesser? It's not a good end to a movie, and I think he's right. And I know if you've read the books, he's like, well, I want to see it, though. It's like, fair enough. Maybe you do that in something else. Maybe you put it somewhere else. But I think he's right that if you're at the movie and it's all ended, and then it's like, now we're going to do this, you'd be like, really? I don't think people that hadn't read the books would have got it.
And there's rumors that there's yet another round of extended edition material that they potentially could put out that includes some of the stuff of the raising of the Shire. Now, will normies get into that and then watch, the equivalent of a 6-hour movie each? No. Will nerds like us? Well, hell yeah. I mean, I'll totally get that because I want to see it. But I don't know if it has mass market appeal 20 years later. This is a super sticker from Clobberin Times. Clobby is a fantastic YouTuber. Talks about comic books, Star Trek, a gentleman. Just don't have enough kind words for Clobberin Times. He's just a true class act. Gives me a $1.99 super sticker with thumbs up. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. So it is kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy. And then, watching this season 2 video, and you and I have not talked about this other than like on Twitter, just like that was a dumpster fire. I can't wait to rip this apart, or, like, let's get into it. And the problem with this is, and I've talked about it with a lot of people I make this video with, but I still think there's something there that it really bothers me, and I have yet to be able to articulate it. Like, it's some subtext to this that I am not seeing. That is,
what annoyed me the most?
Wrong.
And this might seem like a really small thing, but I think it shows that you actually don't even understand the basic core of the book. It's right at the very end. Rand says something like, I don't want to be a spoke in a wheel. And she goes, no, you're the water that moves the wheel. I'm like, you don't even understand the show. You don't even understand the book. He's a thread in a pattern. He's not a spoke in a wheel. That's not the universe. That's not the magic system. I don't think that's even said in the book from what I can remember, that people like it's not, the Taviran aren't spokes in the wheel that hold the universe together. They are like whirls in the pattern that spin this massive pattern around them, so it makes the shape that it has to in the end. It's like you can make
in the
choices
Taviran,
something's happening or needed.
And you're right. In the Taviran, the 3 Taviran are what the pattern, not the spokes. The pattern is woven around them, and primarily around
the wheel is time, but the pattern is the people. That's the story.
Bingo. And that's the crazy thing with all of this is you didn't in any way show that in season 1. You made it mystery box bullshit. Oh my God, it could be diverse Nynaeve. Oh my God, it could be diverse Egwene. It could be diverse Perrin, although all he really does is breathe out of his mouth. It could be junkie fuck up Matt, or it could be dumb white boy Rand. I mean, it's just like, how you get into season 2 without having established any of the characters or the challenges or the character development that allowed them to get to the place where the events of the Great Hunt happen, because the events of the Great Hunt were essential for all of those characters to do what they did in the Great Hunt. Because, hey, Rafe Judkins, you know what that's called? Character development. It's also called part of like true writing. And we can't throw this all at the feet of Rafe Judkins. We also have to look at some of the writers over there. I don't know. It's ludicrous.
I actually don't blame him at all, for the simple fact that when you hear it, you hear that he pitched this to Jennifer Sulky. And he said, I'm going to do this to Wheel of Time. And she went, yes. And so I'm not sure how much I can blame him when the person hired him. Like, he's providing what he said he was going to provide. Is that really his? I don't like it. You're destroying it, obviously. But Amazon's the ones that's paying him. They had a choice of loads of people, and they chose the guy that once said this. And so, if he's just doing what he said he would, it's like, do I really want to blame you or blame Jennifer Sulky who hired you? Because let's say that he goes and this series goes and another one. Well, Jennifer Sulky's just going to hire someone to do this to something else. So I'd rather the person that hired him to go, but then rarely the people that get blamed, because it's like, well, the showrunner. It's like, yeah, but somebody hired the showrunner. Like, if he bait and switched them, then maybe you'd have an argument. Well, it's not their fault. They didn't know what they were doing. They can't control it. But as it is, he said that what I preferred was the Aes Sedai. I thought this was a really feminine story. You can push them to the top, and it will replace what was it, Conan the Barbarian, which is too toxic for you. And
Yeah.
so he's just doing his own job at the end of the day.
Well, you're onto something with that. Let me get to this super chat because you did a fantastic video, Disparu, in my opinion, talking about Jennifer Sulky and accountability. Because in corporate America, there's something, in my opinion, I'd say it's relevant to this woman. It's called management malpractice. And you see it a lot within corporate America, especially hidden under the veil of diversity, equity, and inclusion, where you cannot criticize anybody because of physical characteristics. Because merit is a thing that doesn't exist as a patriarchy. Let me get to this from Sean Godley for $10. Thank you. Says, I thought Jordan had a pretty balanced gender system already. Well, he did. The parts
That's why they
where
didn't
the
like it.
male that's right. The parts where the male and female parts of the one power have different strengths in the women's circle versus the village council. Genius. And what he's referring to is Sadine and Sidar, the male and female parts of channeling. There's a
Which
huge
didn't exist in
backstory.
season 1.
Not at all. Not at all. And there's the male side was tainted by somebody. It's not because men are evil, like Rosamund Pike told you in the first 30 seconds of season 1, where all men are evil and shit. And that never stopped. That never stopped. That was never part of Robert Jordan's world. And then, of course, the women's circle versus the village council. This goes back to the eye of the world. And it's world building. The show had no time to world build. It had plenty of time to make sure that they hired the most diverse people that you've ever seen before outside of a Benetton ad or a United Nations Youth Council, probably on climate change somewhere. But it had nothing to do with being a small village isolated at the end of the world. The women's circle was this powerful group of, strong women who would stand up to the men and then do the things that women in small villages would do to get their way, because that's actually how the world works, But thank you very much for that $10 super chat.
But
Sean
they did
Godley.
it through influencing their husbands.
Bingo.
Like, there was lots of lines where it's like the men think they're in charge, but really we'll get them home, change their mind, and then they're going to do what we want. And that's, they would call that problematic, because it means like there's an inherent sort of hierarchy built into it, and their whole idea is the people at the top just oppress everyone beneath them. Well, now you're saying that somebody who appears to be underneath them and is apparently oppressed is now actually controlling the people above them and has influence. Well, it destroys your entire argument. So
It's
the only way
true.
you can do it is remove it. There's like, even in the fight there was no male soldiers, the men weren't fighting, but the women's circle all grouped together in the sisterhood and stabbed everyone with spears. It was farcical.
Well, and the other thing is they sacrificed the entire scene, which was extraordinarily meaningful, I think, for a lot of people who read Rand al'Thor's story. It was building because, again, this was character building for the most important person. The Dragon Reborn, who didn't even know what was there yet, or you see him fighting monsters and hiding from monsters, dragging his wounded father who's delirious, telling Rand al'Thor that he is not who he has thought he has been this whole life, while being pursued by horrifying monsters which he only thought were children's tales. And instead, this show decided to focus on strong, independent women in the village, taking out 9-foot Trollocs who weigh 600 pounds with frying pans through the power of vagina. I don't know. Like, somebody have another explanation for me? I don't know.
I mean, I'm not against them putting that scene in, because it was probably the best scene of the series. Although, did you see that Brandon Sanderson said that one of the pieces where he actually had input and it was changed was in that scene? He said Lan was a useless guy who just failed at everything in that scene, and he was the one that sent in a note saying, you can't destroy Lan like that. He's got to be like useful, and so they turn him into the Lan he is, which is why for the rest of the series he was useless, because obviously that wasn't changed, and he would have been like that in that fight. It would have just been her. So you would have had a useless warder, which defeats the point of a warder. These are the best people in the world who were then given superhuman powers. And like, that's why they're specifically like, if they're crap, nobody else in the world can do anything. They are the elite of the elite. Oh, it was pathetic.
It's true. And the other part was, and I harshed on this all throughout my season 1 reviews, is Lan was essential in training Rand, who was a sheep herder, who used a bow and an arrow. He suddenly gets a heron-marked blade from his father, who tells him he's not who he thinks it is. Well, Rand doesn't know how the hell to use that thing. So the entire time they're traveling, you have Lan, who you talked about, teaching the boys how to use swords, while you have a character completely absent from season 1, which would be Tom the Gleeman, teaching them how to be worldly, street smart, and take care of themselves.
And
All of
Lan
those
taught him
things
how
had
to be a man because
that's
it
it.
was
And
about duty.
And all of those things had to be removed because that is the patriarchy. And you cannot show a man being competent and more competent than Rosamund Pike or Moy Rayner, a woman in this show. And I really don't think they're going to change that for season 2 at all. I just don't.
The issue is, without that, there's no reason for Rand to save the world, because Rand has
Yeah.
to go through horrific stuff. You really have to censor yourself. But he does.
Go ahead.
That.
It's my channel. I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah, but he does that
It's
as
okay.
a sacrificial, like he
Yeah.
sacrifices himself to save the world. And you're like, well, why would he do that? Unless he's taught, unless it is inherent to masculinity to sacrifice yourself to save people, unless you see
Yeah.
it as your duty. Especially at the end of book 3, there's a moment where all that comes to a head. All the teaching that he's had from people is like, okay, this is the only thing I can do. This is my
Yes.
last chance. And it's just a
Yeah.
Hail Mary of everything he's been taught. And without Tom and Lan, you don't get that. But they did this thing before. I would never really fond of Perrin throughout the entire series. I hated his chapters through most of the way through. But my favorite part about him was in book 1, where it's him and Egwene, and they're being chased by the crows, and he's seen them rip the people apart, and he's like, I don't want that to happen to her. If it comes down to it, I'm just going to put her out of misery first. And that horrifies him. Because he doesn't want to do it. It's horrific to him. And that's what puts him down the trail of, I don't want to be violent. But that shows the like sacrificial nature. I'm going to put on this burden to save you, even though it's going to destroy me. And it scared him. But he knew he'd still go back and do it that time because he knew it was the best thing, even though it was horrific. And instead they replaced that with his wife. Where the best theory I've seen about that is she's actually a dark friend. Because the bit where he spins, like Taverin, she's got a hammer over her, so it looks like she's about to do him in as it is. And Taverin could have made him spin around. So that's probably, because at the moment you're like, well, how's he going to stop feeling guilty about that? That's stupid. So they're just going to spring that on at some point, I'm guessing. It's bad enough that that's probably the best explanation. But you take this thing and morph it into something terrible, where you get in trouble for it because they started calling you a fridging it. And it's like, that wasn't even in the book. He tried to change it so it would satisfy you, and he gets in trouble for it. I was like, so it's the worst of every world. But they couldn't do it because it would show men in a good light, and it would show her as needing him, because her fate was horrific, or rely on him. And
Purple,
it destroys
Purple
Perrin as a
Valkyrie.
character.
Sorry, Purple, can you put that last comment about Benioff and the other person that was on screen? This comes to us from William Jones. He says, I have a question for Salty and Disparu and the whole chat. Is it blasphemous to say I would have preferred Benioff and Weiss as showrunners? Hacks they may be, but they know how to adapt a book.
Were they the ones that did like the TV ad prologue?
I don't know. I honestly don't know who they are.
So I'm assuming it's the prologue.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
Giving me names of things is not like I'd have to do it.
But maybe
the best people for it. There's a scene fan made from book 1, and it is the guys enter the inn, and there's the dark friend at the inn. This isn't even in the series. Well, they change it all and ruin it, but. That was their version, at least. That was the stupid thing. It was like, you tried to hit the same point, but you changed everything about it, which makes it all pointless. So if you had the time to do one, you could have just done that. But that fan video is great. It's all just from the books, and I would have just got them to do it. Like, it'd be like, well, you've done this on you because you've seen 40K do it a lot. Someone will make a fan animation, they just employ them. You should have done that with those. I don't even know who they are, but just give them hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh. Evil Horned Rat God says they were the Game of Thrones showrunners.
They could adapt what was in front of them.
They could. But at the same point, it seemed pretty obvious George R.R. Martin was giving them a lot. And when they ran out of his book and then they kind of had to do it on their own, I think that's kind of when things derailed. But
I mean, I would have... The thing is, Brandon Sanderson said he's not like he doesn't even want. He's in talks to do his own books, but he wants to start with probably the ones he considers lesser. Whereas when it comes to like his own epic series, he wants to write some of the things, and he says, "Until I've got more practice, I don't want to do that because that's a big thing." So I think he's going about it the right way, but I think you would need someone like that who actually had the power, because, like I say, he changed Lan. Well, that's the only time in the entire series I thought Lan was an acceptable character. So I would have given him more power, and I would have had somebody who cared about the books. I would have just. I don't even know who the people made that YouTube video are. I would just got them to do it.
That's
They
true.
made that.
No,
It was good.
I
Do more.
agree. I mean, I would have much rather gotten something that looked more like that, or even something like Fantasy from the 90s that was lower budget if the story was there. If the story was there. If it actually was the story. And we didn't need to have they blew $80 million on the first season. Okay, admittedly, there's capital costs because they created a full studio in Eastern Europe.
I can't
think
see
it was
$80 million.
I don't see it either. I mean,
most of the series was a few people in a forest with some tents.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and they blamed it on COVID and all this other nonsense. And you look at the production value, and maybe you want to take a look at it. We'll just run through the trailer really quick. You look at the production value of the season 2 trailer, you can see that maybe somebody got on their case that was competent and knew how to weave together a trailer that to me seems incredibly good at creating the uncanny valley of I know what that is. And
I hate trailers like this. I hate most modern trailers now because it is just a flash for 2 seconds and move on to the next thing. And I prefer trailers which tell a story. The best trailers that I've seen in recent times were the Mission Impossible ones, where they go through a stunt, and you look, it's like a 9-minute feature where he does the jump. I'm like, that's a movie in it. That's a 9-minute movie, and it's incredible. It's got all the emotions. Yeah. And it might have, like, it could have happily have been its own piece of entertainment. Those are the trailers I like, where it gives you an outline of what to expect. Not just flash, 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 next thing. It doesn't.
Well, this trailer, I mean, I downloaded it, I processed it to 1080, and then because I wanted to see what certain explosions were and what was going on. And it's crazy because they've literally inserted scenes to make it look like it's happening like an explosion, and really it's not even related to what's happening in the scene they put together. It's just exactly what we said: flash, 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 flash. Don't think, just get just get endorphins going. And the more that I slowed this down and looked at the devil in the details, the more kind of dark weird it got, because I wasn't sure where they were going. And it really felt like they were deliberately misrepresenting what was in this trailer. That's an opinion on this. So,
well, the part of the story in the trailer that we already know, that I already knew was coming, like, oh, there's Ishmael. Obviously, he wasn't dead. Yes, he set it all up. So whatever they were planning to do, he won, which is stupid. Because what's the point of the story if he's just won in the first place? It was a case of you're making everyone look like this. You're making Moraine look like an idiot, and it's like you're supposed to like her. So this is your character that you want to put at the forefront, and you've made her look stupid. And I don't think you want to, which means you don't even know you're doing it, which is worse to me. I'd rather someone be knowingly awful than be completely ignorant.
It's crazy though, because we're hearing the same thing about the Rings of Power. And even if you look at the marketing materials, like the show posters side by side, and I compared both of them side by side for the Rings of Power in season 2 of Wheel of Time, it's the same damn thing. It's the same damn color palette. If you look at what they're going to do in season 2 of the Rings of Power, I mean, I stopped watching it. I couldn't take it anymore. I will watch the second season of Wheel of Time, and hopefully it won't break me emotionally so that I need to flee into the woods and I don't know, hang out with bears because I need to ground myself before I lose my marbles. I don't know how we can expect anything even vaguely like the source material, considering nothing was set up in season 1. And this trailer is doing everything it can to sell moments that look like they're from The Great Hunter, the Dragon Reborn.
You could have reset it. There was an opportunity to reset it. You have to fire Rafe and bring in somebody else. You could have reset it at the end of season 1 because it finished at a point where it's like, okay, most of this doesn't make sense, but you could see where
Yeah.
everyone's kind of in a place where you could just carry on from there if you really wanted to.
Just pretend it never happened. You know,
Well,
like how you keep a marriage going. Yeah, that happened. Let's just pretend and let them get a divorce. You know what I mean? Or maybe
yeah,
that's
well,
just
I mean, like,
don't
well,
know.
you freed the Forsaken. Everyone's kind of in that part of the world, and the dagger's gone off. Let's just carry on with the story. So
Yeah.
everyone was at least in the location, and they knew the people involved, and that's really all you need.
Yeah.
But then it was like, well, we're not going to stick to it anyway, so we're just going to make it up. It's like, well,
Yeah.
it would have made sense if even the characters were like meeting the same characters that they did before, or in the same relationships with the people they were before, or even remotely. It's like, no, it's nothing. It's its own story. It's bizarre to me. But like I say,
I
when you're destroying your own characters and you don't even understand the fundamentals of the book, I don't believe they knew there were two halves of the power in season 1, because now they're like, well, we're putting it in season 2.
Yeah.
Like, why wasn't it in season 1 then? And all the magic is seemingly being represented in the posters as like water and fire. So like the women have water, and so we're not doing elements, which I can kind of get from a visual standpoint that the actual weaves would be too complicated for CGI and stuff. So I kind of get to just do you 2 colors and everyone's fine with it. But you didn't even know that like Terangriel and stuff were for specific magic, and you can't bring one little guy to make your power go up and go, I don't know whether a man or a woman's going to use this. Oh, lucky it was a man, because that's the one I've got with me. Like, that just doesn't work. So
I know. But I really do think in the second season, and I'd like to be wrong, that they're going to say there's more than one gender, and it's not going to be subtle, because there's already been signs. With some, if you look in the background of this, you can kind of see that the trans agenda is present with this. So would it surprise me if the magic system is not completely like that? I am going to say that you're probably going to see biological men at the tower, the White Tower, studying to be Aes Sedai, because after all, it's 2023. What do we got here? Oh, Dovienda Setovi Again has been a channel member for 17 months. It's a long time supporter of this channel. Hail to you. He says, woohoo, Disparu, love this guy. And of course, Dovienda Setovi Again in the old tongue means time to roll the dice again. So people love you, dude. People love your content on this. Yeah, I think we may have covered this, Purple, but about the writer's strike, do you think at this point this show standing on its own merit, we probably talked about this, but do you think that not having Rafe Judkins talk about this or Rosamund Pike talk about this is actually building more positive image for this than if we'd get the Rings of Power, everybody's racist marketing plan for this?
I don't think anyone cares about the series. I think it's dead. I don't think if you were like, for season 1, would no marketing have helped? I'm not even sure about that, because the marketing got the few channels that kind of were known on side in the first place, and so it probably did. The marketing did help it at first, but now I don't think anyone cares about the show. I think everyone knows what it is, so you've already scared off the people that want a book adaptation, and I think the ones that remain like it, and so I don't think the marketing would scare them off either. So I'm not sure they can do more damage than they already have. Now, if you were changing course, I think you'd have more of a debate there, because then you'd be like, well, we've got to convince people. Like, we've got to get them back on side and be like, okay, we're now recommitting. We've changed the staff. We didn't like what that was, and we fixed it. Then you'd need the marketing, and that would severely hurt them not having the marketing. But as it is, I think the message is out. Everybody has seen it. They've already made their mind up, and I don't really know why season 2 is happening, let alone season 3. Because I don't believe the numbers were good enough to make it worth it for them.
No, and we've never seen those. Amazon did release the viewing numbers for the first week when it was released, and I believe they allowed you to watch, what was it, the first 2 episodes all at once, or the first 3 episodes all at once. And what it did is they, even if you watched that show for 30 seconds, it would have counted as total watch time of the full show. So there's a big old asterisk by that, and I still have that statement. But never once did you see any viewing figures released on the rest of the show at all.
And even now they talk about the premiere. You
That's
still hear, the premiere viewers broke records. I think even in a recent video, I spoke about it, and she's like, "Still, oh, our series is going from strength to strength. You should have seen those premiere numbers for Wheel of Time." I'm like, never mention any other episode at all.
No. And the other part is they did mention one specific area in India where it was through the roof for viewership numbers. And again, because the identity politics has demographics and marketing, that was this key essential of the global audience they wanted to get. That one particular district in India was super into those first couple episodes, but then you hear nothing else. You hear nothing else about the average throughput of all Indian viewership or all Spanish viewership or all UK viewership. And Nerdportal, I know you dropped a member chat. I can't read it. Just go ahead and put it in chat and Purple Valkyrie will pick it up because we just can't pick it up. But thank you for being a channel member. So
the only guy, ironically, that I've even kind of the guy that plays Rand himself, he actually did seem to care about it at first. He was like, "Yeah, I'm going through all the books. I really like this." Yeah. And you're like, you could have made a decent main character, but you never see him.
Yeah.
You never hear of him. He's always shoved in the background. He's on the back of a poster, shoved as far away up a corner as he can be. And you're like, I think he could have been good marketing if he was actually the character. If you'd played this how you should have done. Like, I still think Rosamund Pike makes a decent Moraine. I would have been okay with it. I think she's a good actress.
If she was written the way she was in the book, but if they would have taken all of these characters the way they were done in the book with the competent showrunner, they would have made something that would have touched a lot of people's heart. Would people have nitpicked it? Yes, because that's people do that. But
yeah, because you've got the stuff like
it.
The Aes Sedai, like they're meant to look like they're 20. They're meant to look like they're 20, but have the wisdom of someone much older, and that's not what they went for. Like, well, so.
They got some of the
they're all like 40
mannish gender studies, like adjunct professor types. And that's a horrible thing to say, but it's my channel, so I don't care. Go back and look at the casting. Okay. The casting, the way Aes Sedai are written, Robert Jordan gave notes when the graphic novel was being created by Chuck Dixon. We know exactly how Robert Jordan would have felt about this story. The Aes Sedai don't wear pants. They're very feminine. They need to look young. Okay, you have Aes Sedai who look like it's a gender studies like bongo meetup, you know, and it's like, and they're all like in their 60s or their 50s because we can't be ageist and we can't be sizist and we've got to have whatever. It's just, it takes you right out of the story. And it's those same things that there's nothing wrong with that being like that in real life. The problem is this is a fantasy story, which is about magic and scary things and bad people and dragars and fades and magical creatures that will kill you. Your intersectional gender studies insert of random stupid box checking shit does not fit into a fantasy world. And we've seen it again. Christ, you suffered through Willow, you suffered through The Witcher, you suffered through all these things.
Reveled in Willow.
It was weird. It was
funny.
Actually, yeah.
When they try and do comedy, it's amazing. It's like She-Hulk. Yes, it's bad, but it's trying to be funny, and that makes it funny. It's like they're not funny, but the fact they're trying to be, and it's so rapid fire, like that. That's what makes it work. Like the behind the scenes of Willow is one of my favorite videos. Just it was so. There was actually genuine talent that went into behind the scenes, and I'm like, this should have been the show. I don't know why it wasn't.
Well, I think one of the most dangerous things it was when you pointed out in your videos, Disparu, where they went and interviewed the writers behind this show, and you got to see the people who wrote for this and how they talked and their worldview. And it's like, oh my God, you have just confirmed everything I thought about your show by showing me who you are. And it's like, it's not some great surprise when we get that across fantasy and all these other IPs. The people writing this, why were they hired again? Why? I mean, if it's not agenda and it's not box ticking, it certainly is not ability to digest and adapt source material or to produce a script that's engaging.
It's like the ex-Witcher writer that went on to do, I think he's doing an X-Men thing at the moment. He's like, you have to prove that you're a fan of the original work before you can contribute to its legacy. Like, that was such a well-put sentence. And it's like, it's obvious this isn't. They don't like it for what it was. They like it for what they can turn it into, for the platform
it's
that
occupying.
It is. But I think everything you need to know about what I think of the new casting is that Lanthea is supposed to be the most beautiful woman to have ever lived. And from that, I mean, you can go and make your own mind up. It's all in the eye of the beholder. It's just in this case, the beholder is the giant one-eyed creature from D&D. And so
But
yeah, it's just
it's weird, and part of me wonders, Disparu, and this is an opinion, if they had to make sure that no woman was more attractive than Rosamund Pike in this show, which would explain
they
a lot
have to
about the
be.
casting.
It's
Well,
literally in the description that she's the
I
most
know.
beautiful woman in the like. You can't get around that fact. It's like, if nothing else, you've got to be like, well, okay, that's going to get us viewers.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's not just, oh, we can't. You could even understand it. You're like, well, you've just hired a load of bad writers. Okay, you've hired somebody who's incompetent, who's just terrible
Yes.
at artwork. Okay, you've hired somebody who even hates the show. Fine. But how do not a single person in the set goes, by the way, we've got the most beautiful woman in the world. If we just go around and hire like Miss Universe, people will watch. Like, they don't even care whether people watch their show. And that's what is amazing to me on everything. It's like, what was it, the Blue Beetle guy, when everyone came out about Batman's a fashion. And they started going, my job is done because I pissed everyone off. It's like, no, your job is to get people into the cinema.
That's the whole thing.
It's like, they don't even care about profit, which is why I'm like, you can't hire people who think profit is evil, because they will make sure your company makes no money, because they don't care if it's successful, because they want to push something else. And like, well, okay, somebody in the company must realize what's happening at this point. You've got the perfect excuse. It's like, what was it? I think it was called The Outpost. Literally just hired like a Miss Country as the main character. And you're like, I watched all of it. You know, you're like, well, okay, yeah, but at least you're entertained on the screen. It's just one of those things. It's very basic. It's obvious. It's gone through sales for literally probably hundreds. I bet you could go back and you would have been in like the 1200s. Or when, I bet the very first merchant that ever created a product and had to sell it on the stall just went, you're attractive, come here and sell this for me. I guarantee you, the moment money was traded hands, we knew what marketing was. And yet Hollywood has destroyed it over decades. And this is the whole thing. I don't mind if you're awful at something or if you're just incompetent. But no, actually, I don't at this point, I'll even accept you being evil. It's the fact that you're so incompetent, you don't even realize how bad you are. It just pisses me off.
That's the problem. That the lack of self-awareness, like, you can
just be evil.
Somebody that's like
I would prefer you to be knowingly evil than incompetent.
Yeah. Like, I'm here to destroy capitalism, or I'm here to deconstruct, whatever the horse shit, stringed a bunch of meaningless nonsense together that ends in white supremacy, right? Like, at least, you own it. In this case, it's almost like, and I think we're seeing what the Rings of Power is, we're camouflaging mediocrity and terrible storytelling with calling everybody a racist and only focusing on, say, somebody's gender or sexuality or their color of the skin, when really, if you would have told a good story, nothing else would matter. Because at the end of the day, your bad CGI, we could almost forgive them. Okay, your weird casting decisions, we could almost forgive them. But if the story is good, we can forgive things. I mean, we went through the 70s and the 80s. There were some terrible, like, looking science fiction shows and fantasy shows we had in the 70s and 80s, but they had good stories. And that's the missing component to all of this, is they simply, for whatever reason, do not want to tell a story, let alone a good one or a bad one. It's just things on the screen and then bad CGI. And if you don't like it, you're a racist. Let me get to this.
Also, Egwene was dead at the end of the final episode. I'm sorry, but she shouldn't be in this series. She died, and she was brought back by magic. And I'm like, that's the foundational rule of the universe. Once you're dead, you're dead. And they're like, oh, she wasn't dead. Yes, she was. Just look at her.
No, she was a charcoal briquette. I mean, I have still images that I like to use on videos, but it is a cardinal rule against the use of magic in this world Robert Jordan created. Not that it matters to the showrunners, but you cannot and should never do that in Robert Jordan's world. Not to mention an untrained proto Aes Sedai, who's not even somebody who isn't accepted, can do this type of huge, powerful magic to raise somebody from the dead, which is entirely against the magic system.
She's not even supposed to be able to channel. She's supposed to be angry. She was sad, not angry. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Nynaeve is not the most powerful ever. She has to be mad, and it's a disability to her. And Egwene is actually better because it comes easier to her as someone who can channel originally. But the show can't do that. And I don't know why. Is it because of the race of the women they cast in these roles?
You can't
Because
have an
is that
angry woman.
suddenly driving the story? I don't know, Disparu. It's kind of, let me get to this super chat from Snowdub. He's this big fan of Peter Jackson when he was doing horror. Those are some crazy. This is a crazy
Somebody showed me one of his zombie films when it was many years, like many decades ago at this point.
Yeah.
And I was drunk, and someone, they made this movie, and then they decided to give him hundreds of millions of dollars to make Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, I'm watching this baby crawl up a wall, drunk, out of my mind, and just going, what on earth is happening? So I've seen bits of the movie. But literally to show me how weird it was.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's funny because you look at Peter Jackson with the horror stuff he did, and then you look at what he did because he loved Tolkien, and then you look at somebody like Payne and McKay. I still don't know what they did to get Tolkien, or that little tiny sliver of Tolkien, and they arguably would have seemed in a more neutral position and a safer bet than Peter Jackson. I mean, like just objectively speaking, I don't know. It's weird.
Well, they're the same.
Like
Galadriel's supposed to be their girl, supposed to be the one they're pushing, and make her look like an idiot because now she's responsible for making the rings and falling in love with one of the most evil people on the planet. I'm like, this is how you treat people you like. Like, what are you going to do to everybody else?
It makes no sense. It literally, and I'll finish your super chat, Snowdub. He says, I knew Peter Jackson was perfect for Lord of the Rings. We didn't need any more. It's all about money and messaging now. Well, I don't know what money it is. The money they take out in loans to do this, because it's not about audience retention. It's not about completion rate on these streaming shows. It's certainly not about quality of material. I mean, God help us, Warner Brothers. Are you seriously going to do more Tolkien movies without any source material? I mean, have you not paid attention to what Amazon did? Now, Amazon, in my opinion, burned through a lot of money for not a lot of people watching any of these episodes. What was it? 37%, like 38% completion. Yeah. Nobody cared. And now that they're committed for, what is it, 5 seasons, I think, minimum, like contractually.
Well, I keep hearing that in the contract. I've
Yeah.
never seen it confirmed in an article or anything, but that's what's been going around for a long time.
Yeah. And now Warner Brothers is going to go off and what? You're going to make an origin story for Arwen?
Yeah, I don't understand the spin-off. You don't make a spin-off of a show it's like Citadel. We're doing spin-offs. Nope, nobody watched Citadel to begin with. That's not how it works. Stop it. Like, this is basic business, people. Stop it.
Yeah.
So I don't get all of it. It's like even when I know what you're trying to do and then you fail at it, I have to please just stop. It doesn't make any sense. And the thing is, like, adaptations are the easiest money in the world because you've got the stuff there. Yeah. Just do it. And they're like, well, we need to bring in an audience. Like, no, you bought this IP because it has an audience. That's why it's valuable. If there wasn't an audience, it wouldn't be worth anything. So you're taking something with an audience and changing it to get an audience, which makes it worthless.
That's right. Well, yeah, I mean, you have a fixed amount, a fixed cost, you have a fixed return. Maybe you could add a couple bells and whistles, maybe something for teenage girls, maybe something for teenage boys, maybe something for moms, but leave the 90% core of what's there in place, because that's what made the damn thing valuable in the first place. The through line of the stories and characters. And you can tack on some other stuff and maybe a little bit of agenda stuff. It's not too annoying. The problem is that they entirely gut the story. And I don't know why, if this is a generational thing, if it really is driven by ESG or corporate equity index thing, or if it's because Hollywood's executive leadership is so inept and so driven by pleasing other people, not by the results of the box office, but because they check boxes politically. And therefore they only hire people who check boxes politically. Is a certain point where you're going to run out of other people's money. I mean, honestly.
I think it's a lack of like you brought up a generation of people who were told they never need to strive, they never need to do anything. They're the ones at the center of the universe. They're the ones that matter. And I think what you've ended up doing is creating people who actually can't understand concepts. I don't think that these writers could explain to you what a hero is.
I agree.
I don't think they could explain to you what masculinity is. I don't think they could explain to you the difference between a man and a father, or a dad, or like somebody who has got someone pregnant and a father. They don't understand that those words have different meanings, and
Correct.
there's an inherent thing that you have to do as a father. You have duties, you have responsibilities. There's acts and desires that all form into that word that aren't in somebody who's just made somebody pregnant. And
That's
so they have to resort, because if you can't understand concepts, all you can do is like write what you know. But what they know is, I'm in an office with fluorescent lights and I live in California, and my dad my dad didn't like me and ran off, and I'm miserable, and I would really just like to drink wine all day. And so that's every story. And I really want to be powerful. And so they write what they want because they can't understand. And this is why nothing has values or morals, because values and morals are a concept and they don't understand them. And I think it's a lack. I don't know whether it's a lack of education, or whether there's something else that we do that makes, because I think there's some people that always haven't, but it seems to be a growing number of people that can't
Accelerating.
do it. It's like it's when I can have discussions with people, and I'll be discussing an idea, and they go, "Yeah, but me." I'm like, you actually can't discuss the idea. You actually go, "Yeah, but I'm not like that." I'm like, why are you dragging it down to you? I'm discussing a thing, an idea, a concept. I'm not even making judgments about it. I'm not like that. We're not talking about you. And even in Willow, it's one of my favorite clips.
Yeah.
Like, she's told, this woman is the most important person in the universe. She's going to save the world. And she goes, yeah, but why does he always choose you and not me? And like, saving the world. It's not about you. But she can't understand. You just
raised the entire point. Is you cannot write the hero's journey. If you can't write the hero's journey, you don't have a story, because you can't write conflict. And therefore, if there's no good and there's no evil, you can't make a fight worth watching. And like you just said, where you can't tell the difference between someone who is a male biologically and a man. Now, there's differences between being a male and being a man. Now, all of us can have visions of that. John Wayne, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, the archetypes of what it means to be a man. But you're right. There's a difference between I got somebody pregnant and somebody being a father, because being a father, we have an idea of a concept of that, which would be an ideal. Now, there are good fathers, there are bad fathers. There are fathers who are just pretty good, because we're all human and we're all flawed, right?
But the fact you can have a bad father means that there is an idea of what a father should be. And so without that, this is why with good and evil, they're like, oh, we're not good and evil, we're just morally great. I think that comes because they're like, well, I'm not evil. And if I did these actions, I'd have a reason for it. So this person has to be sympathetic because I can't imagine me being evil. And so, like, if they're not a thing, they can't literally understand it or write it on the screen. Have you heard what they're going to do with Secret Invasion? The main villain is planet. He's been trying to wipe everything out. He's killed loads of people. He's made Fury.
I watched your review and it made me bleed out of my ears, dude. Yeah, not you, but just the story.
They've destroyed Fury. They've killed all his friends, and they want to wipe out Earth. And the director has said that in the finale, it's not going to be about Fury stopping him. It's going to be about Fury making amends. And I'm like, the guy wants to wipe out Earth. He's murdered his friends and wants to destroy everyone and wanted to bring out the apocalypse. And just go, yeah, but he's just going to go and give him a hug. It's because the villain can't be evil because he has to be sympathetic all of a sudden. So we've got to make friends because people aren't evil because I'm not evil. And so we just haven't found the right way of talking to him. It's like, some people just need to be stopped. Like, the guy wants to cause the apocalypse. I consider that across the line. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe you can just shoot him between the eyes and then kick him down the stairs, and we don't need to shed a tear, because evil exists. Shocker. And it really exists today, because again, I think what you're talking about was an engineered blind spot in an entire generation that was put there for a reason, and entertainment is reflecting that to prevent what a lot of us had before that generation, which is called instinct, and the ability to know who's a bad man, who drives the white van that you don't go into, and who's a bad person, and why they're a bad person. And more importantly, why you don't want to be that person. It's missing from our stories, and it is extraordinarily painful. Let me get to this super chat from Silver Lock. Thank you for $9.99. Says, I dropped my Prime membership by the 3rd episode of Wheel of Time.
Yeah, I think it was the 3rd episode. Yeah, that was the one.
Bait and switch.
The episode where Nynaeve gets tied to a tree is the one I watched and thought, if I wasn't making videos, I'd stop here. And then episode 4 was the made up one, which had nothing to do with the plot, and they're just in a forest.
The low gain in a
I never would have made
cage.
this. And that was the weird thing, actually. Shad said he liked that episode. I'm like, how? I don't understand. I don't understand how you can like this episode. I thought it was one of the most boring pieces of entertainment I've ever seen.
Well, you know what was funny though is I think if you had a intersectional bingo card, you could have like totally hit bingo, like because you had all of the diversity and all of the different representation. You had the Muslim headscarf on an Aes Sedai. You know, yeah, it was literally like it was trying to clown. It was like Mel Brooks making a version of the Wheel of Time. It was that ironic, like Blazing Saddles of Robert Jordan. That's what it felt like.
I keep having flashbacks to the show. In episode 3, Nynaeve walks up behind Lan and tries to stab him in the neck for absolutely no reason whatsoever. She just finds him in a forest. You're a healer. Why?
She abhorred violence. She would have never done that. She sneaks up on him on the book, but she raged and resented about like people using weapons in war, which is again, you're seeing in season 2, they have Nynaeve. The show is Nynaeve waving a sword around doing sword battles, which is nothing. And it's not
warders,
even.
I'm assuming. In this, it looks like the warders might train Aes Sedai how to use swords, which is weird. Like that never happens. In fact, as someone reminded me, because the later books and stuff, all the books kind of merge together. But obviously, it's considered weird when Rand suggests to the Black Tower that you should use a sword. Because what happens if you can't use your magic? And it was like, well, that's actually, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, actually. But no one had thought about that before, because why would I need a sword if I can do magic? And now you can't have that moment if the Aes Sedai are just teaching everybody sword fights. I mean, obviously, he's probably read that book and thought, that's a great idea. We'll get them to do that first. He's just taking the best bits of everyone else and just giving them to the characters that he likes.
Well, that's it. Giving them to women. That's how he's fixing Robert Jordan. He's giving so many key events because these books were focused on 3 boys. But Nynaeve and Egwene were essential in their story, in their character development, and their arcs are fantastic. And I talk a lot about how he ruins Rand, Mat, and Perrin. But my God, he totally ruined Egwene and Nynaeve. And he really, it looks like from the trailer. And let's watch that, and then we can start winding down because I know we got a little bit of time left. He's really going to ruin Moiraine because Rosamund Pike is the star of the show. We've got a 149 super sticker from Darius Munchausen, longtime supporter. Hail to you. It's a salt shaker. Thank you very, very much. You guys are freaking awesome. Thank you so much for that. I think we're caught up. Purple Valkyrie, let's bring you in real quick because, oh, wow. Yeah, something nuked my chat. Purple, if you want to come in, she's been producing the show in the background. Do you want to give us an update on the votes in the poll real quick before we watch the
indeed.
trailer?
You guys are killing it in the chat. Thank you, everyone. So we have got so far 113 votes. In the lead, just about. The question was, what is the worst fantasy misadaptation to date? And with 41%, we've got Rings of Power. Coming in a very close second with 38%, we've got Wheel of Time. Bringing up in 3rd place, we've got Witcher Season 3. And then with only 8%, we've got Willow. Disparu's favourite.
Well, this is the thing. I agree with it. Because it depends how you define worst. Like, if you mean what destroyed the lore the most, it's Wheel of Time. But most people, when they say worst, means a worse show. And I do think Wheel of Time was more entertaining than Rings of Power. So... do you mean destructive to the lore or like a better story? Because Wheel of Time isn't the same story, but I was far less bored watching Wheel of Time than I was Rings of Power, and so that's how I judge a lot of things. It's like Blood Origin was trash. It was like all over the place. It didn't make any sense. The writing was everywhere. But I wasn't as bored as in Rings of Power.
It was terrible. It was waiting for something to happen, and then it would contradict itself in the same episode. And like episode 5, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like,
there was a moment where they're all talking.
I can't take it seriously.
And this guy turns up. I'm like, where have you come from? He never appeared. He never mentioned it. And he's like, you were in prison. And he's like, oh, by the way, I'd escaped. What? How?
It's like a Monty Python skit. It's like the Dead Parrot sketch, only with Tolkien. That's really what it is.
Well, one of my favorite comedies is Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and it's a spoof of like 70s sci-fi, and so it does things deliberately bad, like all the editing will be bad and stuff. They'll walk up to a door, stop, freeze, and then about 5 seconds later, someone will go stop. And so he's got all that kind of thing. There'll be a guy there, and there'll just be you'll be holding a brush and then a coffee cup, and it all's changing around. And that's how Blood Origin felt. It was just really badly edited together. Nothing made sense. It was just linked scenes.
It just looked terrible. It just and I honestly, where did all the money go for that? And now I know they've said they're doing this rat spinoff, but they completed shooting in only 2 months. And it's like, okay, I think somebody's not putting money into that. I think they pulled it. Or if you only spent 2 months shooting this, somebody said, all right, we pissed away enough money. Let's just drop this. Let's like make one movie out of it and stop pretending anybody's going to watch this trash. So.
Yeah. So with things like worst, it kind of depends. Like on your definition, like worst, like Blood Origin was worse constructed than Rings of Power, but from an entertainment point of view, I think that like just which was the most boring and which one I not want to sit through is probably about right. Especially I like the thing with Willow as well is it wasn't make sense and stuff, but at least it was a television show and there were some like funny parts in it. The humor did land sometimes. And so you're like, at least this resembles television, which is more than I can say for the other three.
You heard it here first. We have to define what worst is, but you're onto something. Because was it canon destroying? Was it just lazy? Was it terrible? Was it continuity errors? I mean, there are so, and that's the great tragedy in all of what was 2022, which was the year of fantasy, 2021 as well. All of the opportunities there, who would have ever guessed that House of the Dragon would be imperfect, but light years, miles above these other fantasy adaptations that we got. So how do you feel about enduring watching this trailer really quick with me? Do you want to do that? And then we'll get you on your merry way, sir.
Yeah, we can do it. It's like, it's one of those things where I think you're right when it says it's like bait. It's designed for the kind of channels that go, this is the breakdown. Oh, we're going to pause every frame and go, we think this building's over here. And
that's what it is.
You think it's with that stuff like that, though. They want to go, this is the character, who's this? And like, well, you're never going to guess that because no one looks like each other. So like, it could be literally anybody. Like, when I posted the picture, I'm like, you'd never guess that the guy in the top right-hand corner was the main character. And I just had a load of people going, I have no idea who the rest are. It was like...
Oh,
so you can't do that. And I think a lot of people only know because they know the casting. Like, I know who Lanfear is because I saw the casting. But otherwise, I wouldn't have known who Lanfear was. She's the most beautiful woman in the world.
Well, it's weird because again, there seems to be agenda within agenda where the Lanfear stuff, it really does look like a woman who like was a first wife and then her husband had a midlife crisis, got rid of her, but she got a great divorce settlement and now she's banging the pool boy, which just happens to be Rand al'Thor. That's kind of what it is. It seems to be this Hollywood, I'm in my 40s, the kids are out of the house, I got divorced and I've got a great settlement, and now I'm going to make sure that is as validation within this show.
That's why when they cast Elaine, everyone was just like, oh, I'm surprised. Because you've actually hired someone who at least kind of fills the description. Like, doesn't look like everybody else. Oh, you actually read a book.
Okay, she was a redhead. She was a redhead. This is a shocker right there. Let's be honest about it.
It's like when you cast a person and you announce the casting, people shouldn't be surprised. It's something like, yeah, I expected.
Wait a minute, she looks like the book character. Yeah. So I've conjectured that, okay, yeah, you got the way she looks in the books, but she's going to be gay. Because it's Rafe Judkins, right? What else is Rafe Judkins going to do?
Well, they've said that Rand's relationships aren't going to be how it is in the book, because it's essentially like, I can be with all of you, but you can only be with me. So they're all going to be into each other. So they have to do that. So that's already, like, he's already announced that I don't want it to be like that. So I'm going to change it to this.
because this is the most faithful adaptation Amazon has ever done. We got a super chat from Taker610, longtime supporter of this channel, for $5. Thank you. Says Disparu is fury sick of these effing motherfucking scrolls on his motherfucking planet. We're better watching the 80s cult classic Crawl. Yeah.
This is the thing. Fury is now going to go and make it up with the Skrulls who want to wipe out humanity. No!
Dude, I watch your reactions to these videos, and it's you can see the madness, like you can see it on your face, like it's like you're trying to process evaluating the criminally insane. This show is like it's criminally insane, and you're like a forensic investigator trying to dig through the clues of like fecal matter, scribblings on the wall, and like ears stapled to things. You're trying to put this together because these showrunners and these writers absolutely don't seem to even pay attention to what the hell they did 20 minutes ago in the show. You know, like the Hitman and all this other stuff. It's absolutely insane.
I wasn't sure how the last episode would go down, and I was expecting people to get a couple of minutes in and stop, because I knew, because I edited it down. I'm like, I can't cut this anymore, because that is the literal plot. And it's just me going, so this guy, he told Fury's wife to kill him, even though he knew that she wasn't going to kill him. But he didn't actually want her to kill him because he needs Fury to be alive, because he has to go and do this. But now he's angry that she didn't kill him, even though he wanted him to be alive, so he knew that she wasn't going to do that, which is why he hired it in the first place. But now he's going to send someone to kill her because she didn't kill it, even though it just went on and on. I'm like, I can't cut it because that's the plot. I was like, everyone's just going to stop. But it like nobody goes down in that thing. And I'm like, well, okay. So it's just kind of me for a minute, 90 seconds. Doing the big long descriptor of this guy's motives. I'm like, I don't think the writers even know they've written.
But that's what you said was factually correct. You're not even trying to be funny. You're just trying to get it out because you're telling people, if you missed it, this is actually what they've tried to do. And again, I don't know if it's because I'm Gen X and my brain doesn't work that way, but this, I don't know how a human being's brain can function like that and try and write a story. Because to me,
I don't think they have any, like, I don't think they care about like the past or the future. It's like, this is the scene. I'm living in this moment. I've said, oh, well, I didn't want him to die anyway. The plot's changed now. Just move on to the next thing. And I think it's a bit like TikTok. It's just arm in a new one, arm in a new one, arm in a new one, new bit of information, new bit of information. And it never really like ties back or anything. Because you have to remember, like, there's also, it goes with the attitude of like history doesn't matter, tradition doesn't matter, what's in the past doesn't matter. This is why it's like, oh, well, we can change the law because that was in the past. It's crap. It's from like the 80s. Nobody cares about the 80s anymore. We're moving forwards all the time. We're moving into something new. So you're constantly moving through time where everything that happened before in your life is irrelevant, and we're now improving as time goes on, and everything that's more futuristic is even better than what came before. So every episode's better than last. It doesn't matter what he did in episode 1. That was 5 weeks ago. That's traditional. Get rid of that. No, we're moving into the future, folks. And I think it's just the attitude. And you can't... Everything's built up from foundations. And it's like, no, we're just going to knock those out. We're building new ones now, folks.
But you're right. And it's something I've been kicking around for a while, because what you're talking about is a generation that's been rewarded for giving the answer they were expected to give. Not by having the critical thinking to develop their own answer and come to that conclusion based upon evidence. So I think these shows, and maybe this is a wild swing of conspiracy theory, imagine that on my channel. But what you're ending up seeing is they're being rewarded for giving the answer that the teacher wants to hear. And if you go into a profession like writing without understanding, that's it. You're being taught what to regurgitate and say, and that everything in the future is so much better, and everything in the past is either patriarchy or sexist and all this other stuff. Why would you look at something as archaic as the hero's journey? Why would you define what a man is? Why would you know, like you've talked about, what a father is? Why would you ever want to be a mother? Because my climate change. All of these things, which in a million years, we talk about them ironically and in a frustrating way, but it really does appear that some of their hiring practices seem to be devoted explicitly to create entertainment, much like you said, which is literally TikTok. I can be on my phone looking at Tinder and then look up, and then there's a very diverse woman who's a wizard doing a man's job, and then I can look at my phone again. And it's like, those of us who don't live in that world, I guess maybe we're problematic. Is that kind of where we have ended up with this?
I think you end up in a chicken and egg scenario where you're never quite sure what happened first. For instance, is it like the lack of the ability to understand concepts which attracts you to these ideas, or
Fair.
is it a case of you have these ideas which means that you never develop the ability to do that? But either way, we know that Hollywood hires people who agree with them, and the people that disagree are too scared to speak out because you'll just get fired. And so
Yeah.
you will naturally attract everybody anyway. So it doesn't really matter which comes first, because either way, by the time you become an adult, old enough to even get a job, you will have developed all this stuff. And so you end up, because you don't have people with different ideas or from different backgrounds or whatever, you all have the same weaknesses. And so, it's like, I always wonder why nobody looks at somebody else's work and just goes, "That's trash." It's like, that's really awful, because they will show people one trailer and they get told it's awful. It's like, well, if you get that feedback within about 30 seconds of pressing live on Twitter, how did nobody in the company say something?
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. And why is the defense? I mean, is there another page in the playbook besides "you're all racist"? Or you all hate strong women, or you hate diversity? Because that's even with the Rings of Power. And now they've shut up lately. But I keep coming back to, is the fact that the writer strike is happening and these other strikes, so that these people related to these shows cannot come out and play the same stupid, tired things of, "You're just misogynist, you're just afraid of strong women," and all the other, you're racist. Is it actually helping the show that these knuckleheads are unable to do that? Because I think it might actually make more people tune in out of curiosity. In the case of the Wheel of Time, I think the show is dead as fried chicken. I really do. You can see it in the overall global views that are out there in the UK, the United States, all of the different countries, the interactions with this video. People do not care about this video. They don't care enough about it to even downvote it. They're not even watching the damn trailer for this.
Yeah, and even if Amazon go, "Well, we've got loads of money. Oh, we're not that bothered. We're just building stuff up." One thing that came out during one of the articles about Jennifer Sulky and Amazon in general is they're not respected within the industry. They don't have the prestige. They can't get the people, and so they have to overpay for everything because nobody wants to give it to them. They'd rather sell it for Netflix for less because it's more prestigious. And so what Amazon's plan was to get awards. We were going to go to the ceremonies. We're going to impress people and build these arty shows to get awards, which will give us the prestige to get better people. And they're not even getting the awards. So even though these things are custom build for it, Rings of Power was meant, we're going to get... No, it just gets rejected by everything. So the one aim that they could have gone, "Well, we lost money, but at least we're helping the student." No. It's just crap. It's like nobody wants to, even the people in the industry don't respect you and don't want to work for you. So maybe you should just start making money. I'm just like crazy.
and not even like a mercy, and no disrespect for the people who do the brilliant work behind sound, but not even a sound design, not even a technical Emmy or anything like that. You're not even seeing that, which is kind of crazy. And again, not to diminish the people who do that hard work. Lyle Hammock has got a super chat, longtime supporter. He and I went back and forth in real time about the Rings of Power. We had some contentious conversations, but that's part of being a fan. For $20 says, "Hello, gents. I hope you're both well. Disparu, it's a pleasure. I enjoy your videos, even your Ring of Power review." See, Lyle's going to start again, which I think are completely wrong. I was right. Anyway, just saying hello. And salty dude, P.O. Box, I have a lot of stuff to send you. All right. Hit me on Twitter. I will do that. Hail. Longtime supporter. We're not an echo chamber. We don't all think the same things. Lyle and I still disagree about that. And he still has, I'd say, more positive things to say about Rings of Power, and that's fine,
Yeah,
but
there was
I'll never understand it.
There was something, I can't even remember what it was linked to, but I tweeted something out and I said, "This isn't even a good idea." Because it was on about people like attacking their own audience. No, it was, "Why can't I just enjoy something without you coming?" It's like, no one's coming to you. I'm making a video. You're coming and watching it and then telling me that that I'm making you not enjoy it. It's like, you're admitting that I'm right because I'm ruining your thing, apparently. And so
you had to find me. You clicked on my thumbnail where I was telling you I was going to be critical, and then you don't want me to exist. Is that what it is? Sorry.
Wait, well, yeah, but if me saying something ruins your enjoyment of something, you know I'm right. That's why. You liked it before you saw it, and then I pointed out the problem. You're like, "Oh, you've just ruined it for me there." But I said it was specifically about like attacking people for likes. I'm never going to do that. And I said, I don't. It's not even clever. So, like, firstly, I don't really care if you enjoy something. If you like, I I enjoy Willow. I enjoyed Willow. I had fun taking the piss out of She-Hulk because I can get my entertainment out of trash because I find it funny to take the piss out of things.
Yeah.
That's just how I am. And so
Yeah.
other people are like, it's trash. I'm like, yes, I know it's trash, but I can get enjoyment from it, and that's all I care about. Which is why I even posted a meme of like, you know, where the brain's like glowing more and more. It was like the 4 stages of understanding my channel was Disparu watches trash. He's lying. What was it? Disparu's watching trash.
Yeah.
Disparu watches trash television. He likes trash television. He doesn't. It's just a meme. Oh, what? No, I forgot what it is. Disparu is watching bad television. He likes bad television. He's lying. It's just a meme. And the last one was the meme is the lie. And it's true. I meme about liking Willow, but it is true. I had great fun making the videos and She-Hulk. And even Velma, to a degree, I kind of enjoyed when it was over. Because it's rapid fire trash and it's entertaining to take the piss off and destroy. But I said it's not even clever to make your channel where you attack people that like something, because there will be a day where you like something and your audience doesn't, and you don't want them to treat you the same. So that's why it's you should have, because the attitude that you have with your channel will attract people who agree with you, and that means they have similar attitudes, and you do not want to have behaviors which make them come for you. When we see it all the time with other channels where they have a certain attitude and then they get cancelled by their own viewers and they're scared of them. And I could never run a channel where I was scared of the people watching me. It's you have to be fake then, and I have a bad enough time watching the TV shows. The last thing I could do is fake an opinion about it.
No, well, I mean, imagine going through life lying and trying to be something you're not, or trying to mouth whatever the du jour, like SJW,
constantly guessing what people think.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I don't know. Let me
so
get
if
to
people like Rings of Power, I'd be like, fine, I don't. It's like, fair enough.
Yeah. You got your $20 worth, Lyle. See what I mean? Like, you can like it, but I'm still going to point things out that I don't like, and that's okay. This is from Nerdporial Lifeform. He says, pick one. This is for you. Jennifer Sulky or Kathleen Kennedy. Again, context: to go to bed with, to fire, to share dinner with, to be trapped in an elevator like during an earthquake.
It's not even it's not even a fair thing, though, because Star Wars, to me, I cared more about the games, and I've read some of the books, but it was the game. Like, I would rank the games above the movies. I was never that into Star Wars movies. It's like I watched them, I enjoyed them, but it never like meant that much to me. And so when something's trash, it's like I don't have the same emotional connection to it that a lot of other people do. Whereas they're now remaking the Old Republic stuff, and if you ruin that, I'll be really mad. So like that's where my like attachment to Star Wars lies. If you ruin.
Oh. Well, I mean, we didn't even get into Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, Leslie Headland. I've heard some weird stuff that there's a lot of rumors. People can make whatever videos they want. It's a big YouTube space, but I'd say that show is going forward. I say it's going to be everything that anybody who likes science fiction doesn't want. And like Miss Headland said in her own previous interviews, it's a stepping stone to do whatever she has to do next. You can definitely tell that she is, in my opinion, a true acolyte of the entire world that Harvey Weinstein came from, and I'm not talking about the other stuff, but that all of it's part and parcel. Do what you have to get control and power and get to make whatever you want. Just say whatever you have to, in my opinion. And
I just find it funny that there were more men in Barbie than there were in The Acolyte.
Oh,
I think you watch the Acolyte trailer, and it's like I think there's one for maybe a few seconds on the screen.
Are you a biologist, though? Are you a biologist, Disparu? Can you tell the difference? I know I can't, but yeah, it's crazy though. I like Disney Star Wars. It's saved now. It's saved now. I don't know what to do with this, dude. The High Republic stuff, the readership, the books, they created all these stories, which were going to be a gateway to make all these movies, but nobody wanted the books. Nobody cares about the books. So now they're going to make movies about the books that nobody cares about. I mean,
well, that's the interesting thing with like Barbie could actually go a couple of ways, because they found the audience that they always wanted, that they always said was there, and that we now have proof. All you've got to do is use the right IP. use the right IP with the same messaging, the same value system, it'll be a massive success. The question is, do they learn? Do you pick that up? That, okay, we found the audience. We know that we can make content for them because that movie is literally just She-Hulk and Velma, just repackaged into a different IP. So we can now do a conveyor belt. All you've got to do is pick the right IPs. That should be a lesson to you that maybe Star Wars isn't the right one because it just doesn't have the right people. That's the lesson that you should learn, and Disney should learn. Maybe. And now you just go, okay, what other IPs are like Barbie? What has the same group of people? And you could make millions. And go on.
Billions. You could actually make billions, especially if you didn't accurately market the movie. If you did, maybe like with Barbie did, in my opinion, and represent it to be a family-friendly romp where you can bring little girls in instead of heavy-handed feminist messaging with a bait and switch occurring in the second act, which seems to be what a lot of female YouTubers that I know and I've watched talk about this show. That's the reaction to it. Is it started off fine, it seemed kind of fun, but then everything went sideways and turned into weird intersectionality in Act 2. So we've been going an hour and a half. I want to be respectful of your time. All right. Well, here we go.
Because I kind of waffled on for a long time, so it's my fault.
No, come on, dude.
It was never like
the last time you and I did this, we went 4.5 hours, and we weren't even live.
Yeah, that's why I kind of said, well, we could be about this. It's not like I have to be here. It's just, it is 12:30, so I'm not going to stay here for another 5 hours.
Good. Yeah, and we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to take the super chat. We're going to watch the trailer. We're not necessarily going to stop it every 5 seconds. We're just going to look at it and allow just a quick reaction. Super chats for $5 from Taker610, longtime supporter, says, in season 2 of Rings of Power, we have to see the look on Gil Galad's face when Gladriel tells him she's responsible for bringing Sauron back.
There's a worse moment than that coming. You've got Celeborn coming back. Can you imagine that conversation? Oh, I thought you died 2,000 years ago. I've got a list. I thought you were dead, but I downloaded this new app.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, I mean, it just, people were asking me what I thought about the Celebrimbor casting. I'm like, I don't. I only have so much room in my brain for this stuff. Thank you so much for that. Let's go ahead and watch this trailer, and I'm going to try and do some voodoo on this and adjust the volume down, and hopefully we don't get clipped on this. Here we go.
I did watch most of this trailer going, I have no idea what any of this is.
Everyone has a choice.
Yeah, this is just painful.
Why do we have to keep seeing her in the bath?
Dude, I don't get it either. I don't not understand this.
Like, oh, it's just him on a mountain. Oh, look, we're hearing some people's faces.
We set him free.
Here we go.
No one should have that much power.
I can't. Was there ever a meeting of the Black Ajar where they're actually around the table? Because from memory,
no, it was a party. It's a party where they don't know each other.
Around.
They're all walking around. Yeah, that's what happened. And because instead we've got the Knights of the Round Table here. That's what.
And one of my favorite pieces, and like you have to this, and it all came back to like the game of houses, and it was complicated. It was how you pick up on little signals. So it's like, oh, well, you look like this, or hold your hand in this way, or I can see this scuff of stuff on your shoe, or you're wearing this kind of fashion, which means you come from this location. Which is why it was important to the world that everybody in the location had the similar traits. Because they had to, because that way, when you're in costume, you can learn things about people. And now we're just sitting around a table. Like, well, now I can't learn anything about you.
But again, they didn't build the world. They didn't go to the right places. They didn't go to Camelot. All the references, again, you could do this. What Disparu is talking about, where it's subtlety and you can notice little things if you would have taken the time to put them into season 1. I don't think
did that. It was actually difficult to see at the cinema, but if you're at home and it's just you and you can focus, it's a lot easier. In John Wick 4, most of the actual interaction between the characters is done by a little look or a hesitation as I'm stirring tea to show you that the time's going down, and people nervously glance at the clock and everything. It's all done subtly and through hints, and it allows you to get what other people would use like 20 minutes of plot just droning on at each other.
Or
and it's all done in a
exposition.
few glances in a moment to drive the tension as a clock goes down, and it's so much better and well done. And this is why when I'm like, well, nothing's happening though, and they're just like, what? Where they're setting up the plot, that they're talking to each other. It's characterization. Yeah, but I could do that in 5 seconds. Other people could do it in 5 seconds. And
But
that's what this scene should be.
But if there's no exposition, how can they tell you how they're the bestest ever? I mean, and that seems to be like the whole reason they're talking is to remind the audience that I am actually the bestest ever, you know, as opposed to like expecting the audience to have discernment enough to make that decision for themselves, which I don't know. Let me do this super chat real quick from Lyle Hammock. He says, although Disparu, I must compliment you on your Secret Invasion reviews. There are some of the most entertaining I have seen. It's so secret the world doesn't even know it exists. LOL.
I think I do that in one of my intros. I'm like, I don't know why it's called Secret Invasion, because they're already here, so it's not an invasion, and the secret seems to be where's the entertainment. It's like, I don't understand why it's called this. It's not an invasion. They've been here for decades. What? I don't understand.
That sounds like the patriarchy talking. I don't know. Logic. Again, like all of these little member berries, which are half-assed, and they're trying to create the illusion that, oh, look, that moment's from The Great Hunt, or oh, look, that it's from The Dragon Reborn.
Well, a lot of this as well will be to try and drag people in who haven't seen it, because not many people saw it, and so they'll be like, oh, magic, oh, this is mystery.
Yep.
So it will be aimed as, if not more, at people who haven't read the books.
Yeah.
And
of course,
I think by this point, they've got to have realized that if you've read the books, you won't like the series. So they'd be stupid to target at that market anyway.
I don't
know.
Now
this, I agree. Everyone knows what this is.
There's a lot of big channels on this platform that seem to think that this is really accurate, and they love this show, which I don't understand. And we can all like different things, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, the Waygates, but they look very vaginal. This is like, I'd compare
nothing like the Waygate description. I had to ask someone. It's like, is it just me? Wasn't it supposed to be Leeds?
It's very Georgia O'Keeffe, like an approach to doing the art.
Just a couple of towers, and they're like, these Waygates were hidden around the world, and everyone had forgotten what they. It's in a field. It's in a field in the open.
They all look
with
the
no trees
same.
around it. The one thing that Waygates were supposed to be, they were grown by trees, and it's like there's no trees. Oh,
and they're not even by steadings, which is where the Ogier were from, which is why the Ogier knew how to find them and how to navigate them, which they entirely stole and gave to Rosamund Pike. But I'm a Toxic Book fan.
Possible.
It's all right. It's a different turning of the wheel.
It's another turning of the wheel. Yeah, sure. There she is. That's the most beautiful,
the most attractive woman in the world.
She's a beautiful actress. She really is. It's just that this is called miscasting. I think you were great in Peaky Blinders. I think you are. You're a very attractive woman. You're very well spoken. I think you're a competent actress. You are not who you were cast to be. And if that means I'm part of the patriarchy and I have the male gaze, then so be it.
I mean, they could have cast the woman from The Outpost. She would have done it. She's done fantasy before. I don't.
It's true.
And even then, because you could argue who's the most attractive woman in the world, but it should at least be something who is everyone would agree you are a model, or you've been a model, or you've won some kind of award for it in the past. Like it should be very obvious who you hire, and that's what The Outpost was. She was like Miss Country, I think.
Yeah, Miss Hottie something. Super chat from Constrained Anachronism. Cheers to you for $5. Says, Disparu, I love your videos and look forward to seeing your season 2 coverage. It's a shame so many creators are just letting this shit show go unnoticed. Well, you got us, you got Prophet of the Dragon, you've got Shad, Night's Watch. You've got a whole bunch of people. You have the White Cloaks. Everybody's covering this. I stopped covering the Rings of Power because I just couldn't take it anymore. So maybe there's people who feel like that as well.
Well, one of the reasons I continue doing my reviews is because it builds up an audience. And if you just do something and they're like, here's my reviews. It's like, well, I don't watch Wheel of Time. I don't care. And this isn't what you do. So my channel for the last 2 years has been kind of built around, well, Wheel of Time's coming up. So that's the whole point. Wheel of Time was literally the series that made my channel about television, because before it was like, well, it could be gaming, could be this. It was like, well, that took off. I'm just going to do that. But it pissed me off so much. I'm like, I'm whatever happens. I decided in January I'm going to build my channel up as much as possible for the next. And I didn't expect it to have been this long. Actually, I thought it'd be come out in about a year. But it was like to build the channel up so I could cover this specifically. And so,
yeah, you and I talked about that last year. It's the same thing. I mean, this is how I shot up. I mean, no one was covering this, and people wanted to get an alternative view on it. And I mean, I'm glad and I'm proud. And I met a lot of fantastic people, a lot of content creators out there that I talk about, I work with all the time. And obviously, you know, you and I met because of this show. And, you know, it's kind of like survivors of Nagasaki walking around and saying, hey, remember that was fun. You know,
it's interesting because the fact that nobody else covers it is an advantage if you cover it and you are a smaller channel, because you get that niche audience which is very into it and they can find you, whereas on other things you may get drowned out by people who just would rank higher than you. So it's a great thing to do. And if you look at it was like Sword and the Pen that I showed you the other day. She did 2 Wheel of Time videos. They've done a lot better than other stuff they've done, because it is a very dedicated
that's it,
like viewer base. And so when you talk about it, they want to know what you think about it. And so you will naturally spread further doing it. So I think it's a good opportunity.
Yeah, that's a channel that I reached out to you because I want to work with her, because I think she's got some interesting.
She's very good at what she does. Yeah,
she's extraordinarily good at what she does. And yeah, we'll try dropping that. I'll probably put that into the video once this is up. But yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll get through this nightmare here really quick. And Purple Valkyrie, keep me honest on the super chats.
Protecting Rand.
Talk to me about using Halsey. Is that who this is? Halsey music for a high fantasy show from Robert Jordan's world.
I kind of stopped caring about music when Willow did like a chase scene to music that didn't fit at all, and then they went into a forest, and I'm like, it's a bit weird, there's a forest right next to him. Turned out they blue screened the forest. I saw that behind the scenes. And then they walked into the forest and they said, the thing about this forest, no one will go in it. Even the evil demons following them wouldn't go in it because it was magical, and when you went in you couldn't escape. And then they forgot that, and they left at the end of the episode, and they never mentioned it again. Nobody mentioned that then you couldn't escape this forest. They forgot their own plot point and the reason to go in there in the first place. So after that, there was just it was like modern music with a fantasy chase scene, and I just gave up.
Oh my God!
It wasn't the first time they did it, but there's a few things where I'm like, there's so much wrong. You have to focus on what matters to you, and that's why CGI. I'm just like, whatever. It's probably going to be trash. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to focus on something else.
Oh, castigating. God,
it's going to be more of the White Tower when, like, you can understand it when it revolves around Nynaeve and Egwene because they're going through the training process. That makes sense. You shouldn't be seeing this. This doesn't make any sense.
No, it's another Siberian Husky they're going to claim as a dog.
Why are we seeing Nynaeve and Egwene scrubbing pots? That's what I want in the trailer. It should be painful. The training was supposed to be challenge. It was supposed to make you want to quit. That was the point. We're going to make you do chores that are so horrible.
Yeah,
you won't move on to the next stage. I guarantee you it'll be, oh, why don't you just go and do this?
Yeah. Well, do you really think they're going to have 2 strong, independent BIPOC women doing anything menial for maybe more than one scene? And then
will be interesting.
And then they're the bestest ever. You know,
it will be interesting if they even, because I don't think they will. That's my prediction. But it will be interesting to see if they even talk about how the tower runs. Whether it's all like we get given food, but we never see the people in the thing. Like it's just someone else doing it. Maybe the warders making them all the food. Who knows? It's like because when you've got a massive thing like that with thousands of people, you need that infrastructure. But I don't think you're going to make to want them to staff it. So who's going to be doing the job?
It reinforces the meritocracy, right? Where you'd have to earn your way to be part of something. You can't just be fabulous like a woman. You have to go through a hierarchy and learn and start in the beginning. That shit's not going to fly.
That calls for blood. I want to know.
See, that's weird to me, because that's why I think that the fire will be the male side of the power.
Yeah.
But she's behind him, and you're not supposed to know who she is at this point, obviously. So whether that's her coaching him, because it's presumably not her power if is meant to be the male side.
Yeah, I mean, are they going to make it Celine and he's living one of his lifetimes? This is again where it's the uncanny valley, where we who read the story and know what the story should be, we're going to project that it could be this on that. I think, like you said, dude, they don't even know what the hell they're doing, and they just want to.
The thing that makes sense for this is if they're escaping, like he has to activate the portal thing. I can't remember what it is, but to get out, like she coaches him, so that could be this.
So this is for
Miss
you,
Universe.
There it is. Yeah, Jessica Green from Australia.
Yeah.
So Dave Z Dude dropping the lore. All right.
And that's the whole thing. There's people where you can argue, well, so and so might be above so and so, and they're not the most beautiful. But there are people where you just go, yes, she's attractive, and that's at least what you needed.
Which is like, a whole other rabbit hole with Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler.
Yeah. But at least you could have somebody where you go, well, we cast her because she was Miss Universe, and so that fits the description.
Yeah, and Miss Biological Female Miss Universe, by the way, because we have to say that now.
Control it.
The last battle's coming.
The whole
I don't even know
world
what
will
that is. It's just a box. Was there ever a box mentioned?
It's so wrong. It's so wrong. And I mean, like, who's going to blow the horn of Valir? I've been going back and forth with some people. I mean,
is that meant to be the box with the horn of Valir?
Yeah, that's the box that
I see.
Eddie
I didn't even recognize the box. Wait, they don't open it. At no point do they open the box. What?
Yeah, but it looks cool. It looks cool because now they've got this animatronic pseudo futuristic thing, and of course, you know, not the right person opens it who should, and we've got the show again. It is in no way an adaptation. I don't know what the hell they're doing. This trailer, I think, was cut to make it even vaguely look like stuff that we know.
The reason it's stupid is because if the villain opened the box with the horn of Valir in it, the first thing he'd do would be blow the horn, which is why you can't have anyone open the box before they're going to blow, because that's the first thing that they would do.
Yeah. But hey, Rafe Judkins is fixing Robert Jordan.
Like, she's already immediately trained to do everything. She could, like, fight somebody who's literally a weapon of war.
I mean, we could sit here and say the book. Obviously, the book. This is from The Great Hunt. Egwene in the book does get captured, but it is not like this. And then, of course, we have the Waygates, which
she's fighting somebody that's trained to be a weapon, and she's like, just shielded. It's like, well, you can't. You weren't trained. You can't do it.
That's not how the Force works. Let's just say that. That's not how the one power works. Okay. Yeah. It takes years of training. Egwene was a very gifted. She does develop some things, but it's just, they're just doing girl power moments for the sake of girl power moments at this point in this trailer.
This is my problem with it. The fact that it's a case of
perfect.
Okay, so you've changed it all. I can accept that it's like it's another turning of the wheel, whatever. It's not the same story, whatever. Fine, blah blah blah. You have to obey the rules of logic and magic within your own universe at the very least. Even if you change the entire story, it has to make sense. And somebody just going, "I can do magic now," doesn't make any sense.
Well,
otherwise, why does the White Tower exist to train people?
If I can identify as something that I am like at the chromosomal level, I cannot be. But if I look like it, then everybody has to pretend it is. So I mean, a magic system. Why would they follow that either? Speaking of which, good.
That's why it makes sense if the dragon is multiple people, because then you can explain how they know how to do all of this stuff.
I agree. And I think it's going to be many heads of the same dragon, and it'll be diversity representation, and then you'll have non-binary. Pretty much.
Flash, and then, Barry. I still can't believe she said that line. It's like, no.
And then we're going to have the non-binary, which is what holds everything together and all this other bullshit. Then, of course, we've got this, which again, made up storyline from New Spring, taken too far, 20 years before the events of what happens in the Eye of the World. More
Which has knock-on
hugging.
effects for the people they're supposed to be with.
Well, and see, that's it. And they both like the D. Now, there is an actual ginger. The cast has, and I'm getting a brain fart, Elaine. There it is. So I'm pretty sure she's going to be gay.
Well, like I say, she has to be for it to make sense with Rand. So
yeah,
like we already have confirmation for that and did from the first season.
By yourself.
We've got Ninja Aiel confirmed, of course, leading
Well, I mean, at least she's not pregnant.
Karen. Yet, give it time. Give it time. Are you a biologist, Disparu? That's the second time you've assumed, like just saying.
That wasn't he fighting waters?
With
Even though
sword,
she's a
why
medic.
not? Yeah, even though she abhors violence, she does. She has someone who's been a healer. She sees the
That's why
results.
she joined the
of war
Yellow.
in
She
a
cares
combat.
about people. It's actually the main trait of her personality. It's what drives everything. It's why she wants to save the world. She can't have people suffering. She has to heal them. It's what drives her to try and heal death.
But I guess
although
that's
now
just
she's done that, so who cares?
the thing about it is they're literally taking away the agency and power of wonderful characters in a book because they're not powerful in the ways that their intersectionality say that she needs to be. She's not powerful enough being a magician who can heal. She has to have a sword because the only power is through violence. I mean, it's a crazy type of a thing to see this narrative boiling down to those kind of basics, right? Like, we can't have a woman heal because that's too feminine. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
man.
caring about people. Yeah.
Well, there's that.
It's the ones who survive.
God, they
I
used
can't
all
remember
the
him ever being
Botox.
tied to a wheel either. That's always confused me because that's
He
a picture that's
wasn't?
been around for months.
Yeah. He wasn't in this production. Definitely used all of the Botox in Hollywood for most of these actresses that are probably over 40. Have you noticed that? Like, literally, it's like someone polished a bowling ball. Their skin is just, you could roll it down an alley and get a strike with it. That's how smooth this skin is.
He has spoken the wheel.
Yeah, that's what I thought it would be. They're going to use that as a representation. It's probably going to be a flashback something. And it's a big metaphor we've come up with that actually he's a spoke in the wheel. And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense.
Oh, no.
How is he a spoke in the wheel?
Dude.
No,
That's why she said it.
Yeah, it's the same thing as the Rings of Power showrunners that said one thing they do. They like the start to come back because the story was a ring. And I'm like, oh, you think you're being really clever, but you're not clever enough to realize that you're not being clever, but it's the most clever thing you've ever done in your life. And so that's why you're impressed by it. And it's like, you don't know that the spoke in the wheel comment doesn't make any sense, but you've built an entire dream around it because you think that's smart.
The entire opening and theme was of a loom because they thought they were being cool with the weave of the pattern. Now we're not weaving a pattern. Now you're a spoke on a bike. Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't hold up time. It doesn't make any sense.
Dude, don't make me sing Cher. Don't make me do. Don't make me do a Cher song.
That turns the wheel itself.
Yeah, it doesn't make any. Like at no point is that relevant to the IP at all. And I don't even like that they've got Ishmael going around and they're like calling him the dark. No, Ishmael wasn't supposed to be the dark one. It's like they can't even get the right character. At least do the correct character.
It's too complicated. I mean, again, I think you hit on it. This is the TikTok generation, and it's a broad generalization, and I hate making those. And yet, there's some truth that needs to be, I think, looked at, which is that
generations is defined by certain things.
Yeah, that's it.
I do wonder if it's they don't want to hire too many actors, and so there's going to be less Forsaken, and they've just combined several of them into one person. Because it looks like they're doing that. So Avienda is going to be several of the other, like, I think people keep saying Gaul's not been cast, and he's not in the show.
Yeah.
So she'll pick up his role.
Yeah.
And it's probably the same with the Forsaken. They're not going to have as many, and they're just rolling them all into Ishmael.
Yeah. You know, I've been seeing things with other Amazon shows, and we'll start winding down. We've had a tremendous crowd here today. Purple Valkyrie, if you want to come back in, or I'll pull you in. Thank you so much for producing today. But that we've heard, Disparu, that they're talking about with a lot of these Amazon shows because of the writer's strike that they're going to be revamping their release schedule. So they'll do like what The Witcher did for some undiscernible reason, season 3, and release part 1 together, and then let a bunch of time go by, and then release a part 2. Do you think that that's going to be possible with some of these streaming shows? How long do you think?
I think it's clever.
Yeah.
Because you have there's like 3 options. You can release them weekly, which is what I think makes the most sense. You can do them in the binge, which is great for the viewers. Like I think most people would say that they like it because you can watch how you want. It's not good for them because they only get a month. You buy a month, you watch it, you unsubscribe. So the sort of the half and half that they've got, that's their compromise. Where you can binge this, and then we're going to get you to subscribe for another month, and then you can binge the rest. I think if you're going to do that, you might as well just release it weekly. Personally, because that keeps people interested over a longer period of time. But it's better from a business point of view than binge.
It's true. It's true.
And I am someone where it's like I fully agree that binge is better. That's what we would prefer. But businesses have to be profitable, otherwise they don't exist. So I can understand when compromises has to be made.
I mean, here's the thing. Would you rather get all of the suck and terrible all at once and then you can move on to something else? Or would you rather have all the suck and terrible spread out over a couple weeks?
Well, it depends whether you're talking about me personally, because I can't cover shows which are binge. That's why I didn't do The Witcher, because it's like...
I get it.
It takes me so long to make a review, at least a day. And if I did a review every day, which would technically be possible, but I think the quality would suffer, and because I'd burn out. Like, you'd see me get progressively more angry, but less entertaining. So I just don't do it. Like 1 every 2 days is about the most I could do. So I just don't cover binge shows. So I'd prefer every week anyway, because I can cover them.
Yeah, people who don't necessarily make and heavily edit videos, there's a lot of time that goes into it, and a lot of trying to compress things and stuff like that. And Disparu's kind of a master of it. His editing style is very different than mine, but I have so much respect for it because I see all the work that goes into those videos. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. Our guest today, Disparu, has indulged me with a lot more time than we talked about, and thank you so much for being on the show. Before you go, Purple Valkyrie, what's our final? And she's pretending to be salty. She's been producing this whole show. What's the final result?
Double the fun, yes.
Oh, ladies, yeah. What's our final results on that poll that we have?
Well, we've had a surprise turnaround. So with 144 votes, actually, Wheel of Time pipped it to the post with 43%. Rings of Power came in a strong second at 38%. Witcher came in third, and Poor Willow dropped down to 7%.
It lost a percent point, yeah. I like that there's just 7% of people really enraged by Willow, though. It's like beats anything for him. That was trash. I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, I do know that my opinion and things, I ended up judging a lot of shows by how fun they were for me to review. And then so that's why it changes a bit.
Really funny. That's really funny. Yeah, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks to so many of my channel members. Thank you so much for Disparu being here. Once the terrible Nick Fury deconstruction, known as Secret Invasion or whatever the hell it's called, is done, what are you looking most forward to? Is it going to be Wheel of Time? Is there another show that you want that you are? And I'm not trying to out you if you want to keep it secret, but is there some tremendously huge dumpster fire that you look forward to covering next?
Well, it's early September, isn't it, Wheel of Time? So I don't think there is time for anything else. I don't like covering 2 shows at the same time. Like, if one starts a little bit early and there's a little bit of crossover, I'd do it. But if I do too many reviews, it doesn't work as well for the channel because it has like more of a niche thing. So I think one review a week is like a nice mix where I do what I want, so there's a core audience that likes it, but it doesn't annoy everyone else or make them not want to watch it, the other stuff. And so I'm probably just going to chill for a while until Wheel of Time comes out. And on August the 3rd, Baldur's Gate 3 drops, and so I'm probably going to run out of time anyway. Like,
dude, I want to watch you play that.
Oh, I'm definitely like it's going to be difficult to work out how I can stream it and not kill the channel. Like, because I don't think you can stream and just put a video up. So I'm gonna have to be like, well, I can't play, but I want to. Like do off days or like do it up to a video. Be like, well, I made this video. I'm gonna stream.
You're gonna
and
need
put it
like
out
a
at the end.
shock collar,
Yeah.
with like a timer on it. Like, all right, that 18 hours of playing Baldur's Gate 3, you got to make a video now. That's
Yeah, I might have to test how many hours after a video you can do before it kills it. So you know, it's gonna be interesting. And then after that, Payday 3 drops, and so there's loads of games combined. So
Yeah.
I may just replace like the reviews with news videos, which are shorter to make, but it also allows more Baldur's Gate 3 time.
Everybody, thank you very much. I hit a 2-hour mark. Disparu, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being so generous with your time. Thanks for, being my friend for so long, and for coming out here swinging on Wheel of Time and coming on and supporting smaller channels like mine. And it's an honor. It's great to get to talk with you. I love the work you do. And a huge thank you to Purple Valkyrie, who so generously gave of her time to produce the show tonight, make sure all the super chats were going. If you haven't subscribed, please check out Purple Valkyrie's channel. And then, of course, I'm sure you're subscribed to the one and only Disparu. If you're not,
Absolutely.
please give him a subscription. So we're going to get on out of here. Purple, did you have anything else before we go?
No, just want to say thank you to the both of you for such a fantastic show. Huge thank you to the chat. You guys were on fire, as always. And I think
Thank you.
somebody in the chat said it the best. It was the team up we weren't expecting, but the one we needed.
Yeah. Hashtag toxic masculinity. I love it. So
Do we know how many
Everybody.
episodes there is for Wheel of Time? Is it going to be 8?
8. I know you want it to be 10, because then there's like 2 more episodes that you
I
can
was
lose
kind of
your
praying for
shit on.
6. After Gotham
know.
Knights was 13,
Dude,
I
it's a
lost
lot,
I learned my
dude.
lesson. But
Dude, I watched you lose your mind with Gotham Knights. I'm like, do we need a check for life? Because like, I don't know how you watch that.
Welfare
You know what?
check,
I mean,
yeah.
like,
you know what I felt sorry for? The marketing team on Twitter. Because they did a genuinely good job. I was actually impressed by the marketing for Gotham Knights, and nobody cared. It was like you couldn't save the show, but they came up with all these videos. They were really entertained by it. They had lots of marketing ready. I'm like, you should promote this guy as something which is actually decent. I felt really sorry. Never knew who it was, but I felt really sorry for him. But the thing was, I was like, it was all timed out. I was like, okay, it's going to end with plenty of time for Secret Invasion. And then for like the last 4 episodes, they just skipped a week for no reason every time. So it dragged on for like 2 months for 4 episodes. And I'm dying. I just want it to be over. But I've done this many and I don't want to stop now. Like, I'm never doing a TV again. Streaming 8 episodes or 6 is better.
oh my God. Everybody, thanks for being here. Again, thank you very much to Disparu. I'm going to play my outro. Everybody, please check out, if you haven't subscribed to Disparu, obviously check out Purple Valkyrie. Everybody, thanks for being here. Great show. Disparu, dude, you're awesome. Everybody, take care.
Pleasure to be on.